Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on The Father Show. And I'm your host, Mike Thompson. And today we have a fantastic show. But before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the show, I would ask that you would do that right now and hit that notification bell while you're there. So that way, whenever we have a show, you'll be notified and you'll know when we're coming on. So, ladies and gentlemen, today, we're going to have a fantastic show for you. We have Miss Erica England, who has spent 15 years as a divorce attorney. She's a professional mediator, a law professor, and a tech founder before becoming chief of strategy at SupportPay, which is a national financial platform for helping parents manage child support payments and expenses between themselves. So SupportPay is something I really want to learn more about, and I think you're going to enjoy it as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let's welcome Erica England. Excuse me, I was going to say Annie, because I know Erica Annie England is your full name. But we'll
It's
just
a
say
delight to be here, however you want to address me, Mike.
Well, how you doing today?
It's a beautiful morning in California. It's Friday. The sun is shining, and I'm happy to be with you.
Good. I thank you so much for joining us. When I read about Support Pay, I really wanted to get you on the show so you can tell the audience more about it. And we're going to dig into it a little bit here in a second. But before we do, let me ask you, you had mentioned something like the divorce courts should be promoting positive fatherhood, when there's a divorce. What do you mean by that? Or what is your vision of fathers being positively supported in a divorce?
That's such a great question. And when I say positive fatherhood, it's simply my own description of it. I'm not trying to own a movement that doesn't belong to me. But I do see very much in our society that there's a toxic culture around motherhood. There's this idea that mothers are the best at raising kids and that dads are inept for so many reasons. And it's just hilarious, right? They can't brush a child's hair or pack a lunch or do anything properly. And moms have to take everything on themselves. And it's disempowering to men. And then what we see happen during divorce is that men have to continue doing the job they were doing, but then they also have to pack the lunches and brush the hair and tell the bedtime stories. And I have seen them over 15 years in almost every circumstance step up to that role.
Yeah.
So promoting positive fatherhood to me is whether fathers are in or outside of a marriage, giving them the support that those traditional fatherhood roles, the hairbrushing, the lunch packing, that they're just as well suited for those. And it's incredibly important for children to have their dads involved on that level, and incredibly important for women to support the fathers in their life in getting involved on that level with their children.
Yeah, because I know with, today's society and the millenniums, a lot of the men are staying home with the kids. So they are packing the lunches. They are combing their hair, giving the kids a bath and getting them off to school, picking them up from school. So the dynamics have definitely changed from when my dad and my grandfather were growing up and my great grandfather, when fathers, the most you can get out of them is and that's it. So I do see that as well. A lot of men are stepping up and are able and capable of doing those everyday things that mothers used to do or do as well, for that matter.
Absolutely. And just as more women are in the workforce than were when you were growing up, there's this change in roles and in the balance of what each parent brings to the relationship. and to parenthood. So I think there's never been a better time to be a parent, because whether to be so heteronormative, I apologize, but whether a mother or a father, both have the opportunity to work and have financial independence. Both have the opportunity to care for the children and give them their bath and read them their stories. This is a joy that prior generations before us really didn't have the ability to experience, that full range of parenthood that we do now.
So uh, why would fatherhood benefit, a positive fatherhood benefit kids, or everyone for that matter?
Most families that are separated families, the children are living primarily with their mother. And most of those families, children have very little contact with their father. And it's quite hard to build a relationship with a child if a father has very little contact with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the everyday things that help us build a relationship. My son's been having an issue at dodgeball class in PE where somebody's been hitting him in the head with the dodgeball. So every day we come home and we say, "What happened in PE today?" It's these little teeny moments that build relationships. So promoting positive fatherhood is it's by no means is it saying moms and dads should have 50-50 custody, because every family is different. It's simply saying, let's recognize how few children are growing up with fathers involved in their lives and see what we can do to bring those dads back in so that they have two parents financially supporting them, taking care of their physical needs, and more than anything else, being there for them emotionally.
Yeah, and well, I agree. You've listened to some of the shows before,
Yes.
and so we won't even have to say that. But I really appreciate and love hearing when I hear attorneys and females is, more importantly, say the same thing, because I think that dynamic will change once you have more females recognizing that and saying, hey, he's just as capable as I am. And I want fathers to step up and say, you know what, when I come home, I don't need to just sit on the couch and have a beer and watch TV while the wife fixed the dinner. I can go out and play with the kids. I can do help with homework, be more involved. And
Absolutely. I
yeah,
encourage that for
yeah,
dads, whether they're married or not married, to take these opportunities. So if they know their child has to go to the doctor, to say, "Hey, can I take the child to the doctor? Can I take the day off and do the parent teacher
yeah,
conference, or can I do the haircut?" Because part of this is mothers performing what we call a gatekeeping role, which is, I'm going to keep all the responsibility myself because you can't handle it. But part of it is dads allowing that,
right,
because
right,
it's easier to not be involved in all parenting decisions all the time.
yeah,
But I realized with my former husband, when I started giving up control over everything and letting him really come in as a complete and fully involved parent, two things happened three things happened. First of all, it was great for him. I saw him just bloom, right? Our children were 1 and 3 when we got divorced. And when he could really fully and completely step into parenting them, he bloomed. It was wonderful for the children to have him involved and know that whoever's house they were at, somebody could equally well cook them a poached egg. That's not true. He can cook a much better poached egg. But it was also amazing for me once I realized, as a mother in particular, when I don't have to worry all the time about whether he's doing a good job, and
hmm,
instead I can sit back and just imagine he's doing a good job. Like, that frees up a lot of space in someone's
yes,
brain. And it really allows for a lot of positive energy to be sent in another direction.
yeah. And that gives you an opportunity to have your life and
Yeah.
enjoy your life, even though you have kids. But on those, I know for me, when I was single, when I didn't have my kids, is when I went out. When I had my kids, I was home. I was with
For
them.
sure.
Yeah. So I enjoyed both, and I can plan around both, just say, oh, okay, well, next weekend I don't have the kids. Yeah, all right. I go out and hang out with the fellas or whatever. And
Same.
yeah, now you mentioned your former husband, and I know you say you don't like to say ex-husband, and I think where you're going, but I want to make sure. What do you like to call him?
I call him my former husband, and
Okay.
this started well before our divorce because I was a divorce attorney and learning at that point negotiation skills.
Mm-hmm.
And as a negotiator, we learn that language is really important. So we can make someone do something or not do something or see something in a certain way just based upon the words we use and the way we structure a sentence.
Yeah.
So I started looking at all of the words we use in family law that have such a negative connotation, like ex-wife and broken home, and thinking maybe if we change the way that we're speaking about these things, we'll change the way that everybody feels about these things. And right at that time, I heard a story on National Public Radio talking about the difference between former military and ex-military. Former being someone who had been honorably discharged from the military, and ex being someone who was dishonorably discharged. And it makes sense because this is why you think, well, we have a former president and we have a former Miss America. We don't have an ex president or an ex Miss America. So I thought, okay, maybe I could just apply that concept and start talking to my clients about their former spouses rather than their ex-spouses, and see what happens if I drop in softer, kinder, more respectful language, if that changes anything. And it did with them, it has with me. And so while I wouldn't tell anyone else what to do in their own life,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure many of your listeners are like, well, my spouse was not dishonorably discharged. They were not honorably discharged. It's like, well, even if he wasn't, I was honorably discharged. I refer to myself as a former wife.
Yeah, and I like that too. I don't like saying ex-wife. I say my former wife. Well, sometimes I do say ex-wife because the first one I would love to say ex-wife because it was a pain. But the second divorce, no, I say former wife, and I generally like to say that, especially around the kids. I don't like to say my ex-wife. I say my former wife, and because it's gently and softer for them, and to make it easy even on them for that matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We try hard to use language that portrays our split in a positive light. And in fact, our children found out this was maybe 2 summers ago, so I think they were 6 and 8 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, my friend, we'll call her Mary. That's not her name, but I said, my friend Mary, who has 2 children that are your friends, well, Mary and her husband have decided to get a divorce. And my children said, oh, congratulations. Because they have this idea that people get divorced if they're in an unhappy, unhealthy household.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually a good and a positive thing to move from an unhappy, unhealthy household into one that's better for everyone. First time ever, I think someone has responded to I'm getting a divorce with congratulations, but it helped to underscore to me how they're seeing it, which is, like, I don't wish divorce on anyone, but if they do have to go through it, then of course I wish that it happened in the kindest, gentlest way.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I want to dive into SupportPay because I really want to know a lot more, and I really want our audience to know a lot more about SupportPay. So how did it get started?
That thought, is there an app for that? That's exactly how it got started. Our CEO was a Silicon Valley executive. She has a background in marketing and in computer coding and went through a pretty decent divorce, did most of it themselves. They were sharing custody of their young daughter, and everything really was okay until the divorce was finalized. because they lived in quite separate areas geographically, our CEO had the majority custody of their daughter. And as part of their divorce agreement, dad was supposed to pay half of her expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So our CEO was saying, okay, well, you owe this for the dentist, and you owe this for tuition, and this is for uniforms, and this is for the soccer cleats. And the dad was constantly coming back saying, she didn't have that before. That's too expensive. I'm not paying that. Show me proof. And it drove her crazy to have these constant interactions all of the time, because really two of the biggest reasons people get divorced are communication and money, right?
Right.
So what they don't know when they have kids is that they're going to divorce, and then they have to communicate about money literally almost on a daily basis for years and years. So she got so miserable, and their relationship became so high conflict. She thought, oh my gosh, there must be an app that allows people to pay their child support and handle reimbursements, expenses. And there wasn't. So she made it. And that's where SupportPay was born. So it's simple and secure technology that allows parents living apart to manage child support payments and expenses directly between them, lowering conflict for the family, keeping excellent records for court and tax purposes, and more than anything else, just ensuring that all children are really getting the support that they deserve from both of their parents.
So this app is something that both parents dial into?
One parent may use it unilaterally, and
Okay.
it's better one than no one, because at least that parent can keep track of all of their payments and expenses.
Okay.
I don't know if you've had anyone talking about their child support nightmares on your show, none of the ones that I've watched, but it's quite common that somebody will say, well, for the last year or 2 years or 3 years, I've been paying XYZ. And then my spouse takes me to court and says, no, you're not paying it.
Mm-hmm.
And then so that you have to go get old bank records from 3 years ago and find receipts and draft these terrible spreadsheets. And then the other person has spreadsheets. And then the judge has 2 spreadsheets, which is the judge's like least favorite thing. It's a disaster. So even if just one parent is using it, it's keeping track of all of their records. But if both parents use it, of course, you have the full functionality of being able to make those payments between each other.
Mm-hmm.
So almost like a very private, confidential, secure Venmo, just for child support. And then allows the parents to make payments, reimbursements, and to handle any disputes that they have when something comes up and they don't agree to split it the way that they're supposed to.
Now, does it help them when one parent says, like you mentioned earlier, well, they didn't have that before, and that's too expensive, and I don't want to pay that. Does it help in any way with that, in saying that I don't know, help with the conflict on deciding, what is not too much?
That is a great example. It helps in multiple ways. So first, there's a dispute resolution process built into the app. So the parents don't have to go to their attorneys and spend $150 for a 10-minute phone call. They can work through the dispute resolution process on the app. If they're not able to resolve the matter, then the disputed expense gets set aside from the accounting. So that way, the parents don't have any confusion over payments and where those payments are attributed.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if I think you owe me $200 for soccer and you don't think you owe me $200 for soccer, the next time you give me $200 for child support, I'll put it on soccer, and you'll still owe me $200 for child support. So there's this crazy way that when we don't line up the payments with what they were intended to be used for, it throws off the accounting for the parents. So if the parents can't resolve the issue through the dispute resolution process in the app, then it gets set aside and it doesn't mess up their accounting. And then just even backing out of that, the parents are less likely to have disputes because the overall conflict is lower. For anyone who's divorced, I think they know this feeling of, at any given point, your former spouse can text you and say, you owe me money.
Yeah.
Or we have to pay for this. And you might be on the treadmill or out on a date, or you might have just gotten a huge bill in the mail and it's a really bad time. Or for me, it's like if I haven't eaten lunch and I'm just grouchy. At any given time, you get this, and you're like, I don't want to deal with this right now. And you shoot off a response and they shoot off a response. And then it's just this conflict blows up because conflict is so contagious. So the really nice way the app even kind of prevents these problems in the first place is letting people be in control of when they have those discussions with their former spouse about money. So instead of getting a text message at any given point, all you would have to do, Mike, is log in and say, oh, here's the expenses. And you're logging in when you're ready and when it's a good time for you. So it's a lower conflict way to handle things, and our parents have fewer disputes. But when they do, absolutely, there's a set-aside process, there's dispute resolution, and in the worst case scenario that they have to go to court, they just push a button and they get these beautiful, legally admissible, summarized records for the judge. So it makes it a lot easier, faster, and cheaper to resolve it in court when they do have to go.
Yeah, because I know I always tell fathers in the past, before these apps came out, that you always keep receipts, because
Yes.
you hear fathers say, well, yeah, I bought her this and I bought him that. And the judge say, okay, you have any receipts? That no, I paid cash. It's like, no. So you always keep your receipts. And to me, I would say even with this app, I would still keep my receipts. And my wife hates it, but I have receipts dating back for, I've been divorced, 20 years? So, I got plenty of receipts. But I think it's a good idea to always have receipts along with this app. That would have helped me tremendously. Now, you mentioned that you don't even have to have much conversation. You can just do it all in the app. So there's no arguing back and forth among each other, on the phone in one's ear.
Absolutely. And that's actually one of the reasons it's wonderful for really high conflict parents, because they will sometimes use any opportunity to communicate as an opportunity to have a conflict. And it's wonderful for families that have domestic violence restraining orders, because they literally are not allowed to communicate. And there's nothing in California law, which is my home state, that tells them how they should communicate about support, only that they have to pay it. They don't want to have to write a check because that has all their private financial data on it. And they don't want to do anything that compromises their privacy or their security. And if there's any disputes or problems, they can't speak to each other. So SupportPay provides this intermediary, neutral way for them to talk about money without ever having to talk about money.
That's really good. I've heard so many new apps that's come out for divorce, even scheduling child pickups and so forth, that, man, that would have helped me tremendously when I was going through it. But I'm glad that it's there now, and a lot of fathers can take advantage of this. And this is national, so doesn't matter where you live, you can just log onto the app. Now, is there a fee or anything for SupportPay?
There is a free light version that is absolutely no fee. And so anyone can go on the website, which is supportpay.com, and they can sign up for a free account. The premium version currently is $79 per year. So if you think about your attorney charging you $400 an hour, $500 an hour, it is a bargain to know you have all of your records handled for $79 a year. But we do have a free version. We also provide the free premium version to anyone that has a domestic violence restraining order, because it's so important for these parents to have a way to communicate that it's safe and secure. So anyone can contact the SupportPay help desk and they can say that they have a domestic violence restraining order. They will get a free premium version for both parents. But
All right.
absolutely log in, try it out. You don't have to give your credit card up front because all of us at SupportPay are single parents. And we hate that situation where you give something your credit card and you get a free trial, then you forget to cancel the trial, and then all of a sudden you get charged something on your credit card. I don't know if you've been through that, but that's me on the daily. So with SupportPay, it's just like it's truly a free trial, and you can play around and check it out before you commit to any
That,
expense. But
that's
we've
excellent.
never had a client say it's not worth it.
Yeah, that's excellent, especially with the domestic violence and having a way for them to still communicate without,
Yeah.
without breaking the law in the process. And she can generally, I say she because she's usually the one that's being protected, but she can stay safe and the kids can stay safe at the same time. And that's excellent. That's a wonderful idea that you guys are doing. So let me ask you now, you mentioned this, what are moms and dads actually doing wrong that tangibly hinders father-child relationship?
Ooh, I can tell you some things, whether they're married or whether they're single.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as I referred to earlier, one of the biggest mistakes that I see mothers making is what we call gatekeeping, which is where they take all of the tasks of parenting, the emotional labor is what they call it. They take it for themselves because there's an idea that they're better at it, or that children need mothers for these things, not dads, or that dads are not capable of handling these things. So if you speak to many moms, they'll say, I'm the one who knows when it's pajama day at school and knows when the school pictures are. And I'm the one who knows when our child needs to go to the dentist and who our child's doctor is. And the dad doesn't know any of these things. I have to worry about all of it. But like, you don't have to worry about all of it. If
Mm-hmm.
your child has another parent, emotional labor as much as practical labor can be divided. So if I had a pile of bricks and I needed your help in moving that pile of bricks, you could literally assist me physically with moving that pile of bricks.
Mm-hmm.
And emotional labor is no different. So if your child has doctor appointments or dentist appointments or school functions, if they need a haircut or if they need new uniforms, these are all things that rather than moms taking on themselves, moms can give up some control
Mm-hmm.
and hand them over to dads. So one of the biggest mistakes that moms make is thinking that dads can't handle it. And then the second mistake they make is judging the way that dad does it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if dad does
That's
want to step up,
yeah.
and one of the biggest mistakes dads do is they go, you know what, mom, you are handling everything. I don't really want to deal with it. And they don't jump in. And then if they do jump in and they get criticized for doing it wrong, then they're not going to want to try something else. So it's super important, moms, if you send your child to get a haircut and the child comes back with a bad haircut, and this happened to me, and the haircut was so bad, Mike. My child has the most glorious hair. It was so bad. But then it was like, that's still better than me having to take him for a haircut. It's still better that his dad took him and he ended up with a bad haircut. So of course I didn't say anything to his dad. I just said, thanks, his haircut's great. His dad was like, are you sure? I think it's a little off. I said, no, it's amazing. But I actually end up taking my son for most of the haircuts now. And I've realized he just gets bad haircuts a lot because he has difficult hair. So it wasn't even his dad's fault. It's just, so when you give a dad, when you empower dad, I should say, to be more involved in parenting, it's
Mm-hmm.
quite important, moms, that you be supportive of how he does it. So if he makes the lunches and he makes them in a completely different way that you make the lunches, that's not wrong. And it's lovely for your children to have two lunches that are made in completely different ways.
Yeah.
So a big mistake is gatekeeping. And then another big mistake is judging. And with dads, it's just the opposite. Don't allow mom to gatekeep. You've got to get in there and say, hey, it's the beginning of school. Is there anything I need to know about? Anything I should be present for? Any help you need? And then if mom does criticize you, know that it's because it's hard for her to give up the control. And so have a thick skin and circle back and try something else, because ultimately the payoff for dad, for mom, and the children is incredible when both parents can be fully and equally involved.
Yeah. I definitely have seen the same thing where mothers don't, they get mad because the father doesn't do it exactly the way that she does it. And that's just something that I think a mom and sometimes fathers too, they just have to get over, because you're two individual people. You're not going to do it the exact same way as the other person. This it's not going to happen. And fathers, when you get ready to do hair, I've seen videos and I've talked to fathers, and I've gone through it. My friends have gone through it, where they're trying to comb their daughter's hair, and it's different than the way the mother is doing it. And that's okay. But the only way he's going to learn is by doing it. So if you keep doing it or you hindering him from doing it, he's never going to learn.
And how lovely for a child to have that interaction where dad is the dad that does her hair. Dad is the guy who takes her out golfing. Dad is the guy who cooks her dinner. Really, to have all these different ways to experience a relationship rather than being quite forced into these traditional heteronormative roles of this is what a mom does and this is what a dad does. It's just not the world we live in anymore. And I think we should all take advantage of that and explore.
And really, realistically, and it's sad and hard to say, but nobody is promised tomorrow. So
Agree.
if you're not stepping in, one of the reasons that I like doing this show is the fact that I want more fathers to be involved. I want more fathers to step up to the plate, because if something happens to the mother, you got to take over, whether you're together or you're not. But you got to know how to take over. So if you still sitting on the sideline letting mom do everything, then if something, God forbid, happens to her, you're going to have to pick up the slack, and you're not going to even know where to start.
And that happened to me, Mike. I was 20 when my mom died from cancer. I was away at college.
Sorry to hear
My
that.
dad had, thank you. It's still a loss. My dad had 4 children at home. And so I moved away from college back home and was there to help him. He had always been a very involved dad, but all of a sudden he became 100% dad and 100% mom. And it was a huge struggle for him to deal with the loss of his wife, the love of his life, and to be parenting these young children. And then to have so many aspects of parenting that he hadn't really been involved with before. So he's learning on the job, if you will. And he did an incredible job raising my younger brothers and my younger sister. They are incredible people today. I'm so proud of them and him. But it certainly would have been a little bit easier if he had more experience there before he had to just go in. So I mean, to say that tomorrow's not guaranteed, I couldn't agree with you more. I've been there personally and seen it in the death of my parent and in my own divorce, which changes your whole tomorrow, of course, as well.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I have too. My father passed away when I was 14. And, when I was growing up, he always would say that, okay, he was in the military. So he would always say, when I'm away, you're the man of the house and you got to take care of your mom and your sister. So it was things that I know my mother had to do. Well, really, since my dad was fighting the war, majority of the time, my mother knew how to take care of a lot of things. She was used to it already. And I think a lot of military spouses experiences this quite often. But when you're just here, like in California and wherever you may be, and both parents are together all the time, when you lose a spouse, it is devastating, just in itself. And then have to take on all the responsibility of raising your kids from that point on. That's just mind boggling. I don't care how much involved you been, that's great, but you still got a lot of work and a lot of things to learn, that, the other spouse was, taken out for you. You don't have to do that. I do it.
Yeah, I'm so sorry you had to take that on at 14. That's such a loss for you. And I wonder how that informs your career trajectory with promoting positive fatherhood.
Um, it. I didn't realize it until not really long ago. I had one of, as Oprah say, an aha moment when I realized that some of the things the anger that I was going through growing up as a kid, was probably due to the loss of my father, because I loved the man. We had a lot of fun together, and not to have that, and I watch him just wither away to skin and bones, because he died of cancer, Hodgkin's disease, and it was just slow and painful for him. But I think that's a lot of where my anger come from.
It's amazing that you worked through that and you channel those feelings of loss in a different direction, because
Yeah.
dads really need positive voices, and moms need dads to hear positive voices.
Yeah.
And children, more than anything, deserve parents that are empowered to love them and provide for them and care for them in all of the ways.
Yeah. Well, I agree. And, unfortunately, we went over our time, and I don't care, because I've loved learning more about you and Support Pay. And I think it's a great app for, people that have gone through a divorce or going through a divorce or about to go through a divorce. You have some help, and that's wonderful. So thank you for coming on the show. But before we go, I would love for you to tell everybody how they can get a hold of, Support Pay, where they can find it, so that way, excuse me, if they need it, they know exactly where to get it.
Absolutely. It is supportpay.com. We have all kinds of resources there, child support calculators and pages that are specifically designed for parents to get resources and for children to get resources. So go to the website, supportpay.com, play around with a free subscription. And if you've got feedback, if there's questions you have, or if you'd like free premium onboarding, you can contact me, Erica at supportpay.com. So that's ERIKA at supportpay.com. It has been such a delight and an honor to be one of many esteemed guests here with you, Mike. Thank you so much.
Oh, Erica, thank you for those very kind words. But I'm gonna cut back to you, because I really want to throw up your family picture, because I love the fact that you and your former spouse still have a family picture, and I think it's great, and I applaud you both. And when you talk to him, tell him I said that's great. Talk to his friends and make sure they do the same thing, because you two are a very good examples of how a separating a marriage can be and how it can work.
Thank you so much. I got very lucky. He's an incredible dad. This is a picture of us, actually not last Christmas because COVID, we weren't together with our family, but the Christmas before that with our son and our daughter. And that's the way that we live. We are one home. We're just under two different roofs. And I got so incredibly lucky, with the dad that I have for them.
Well, that's great. I really applaud you both, and I'm very pleased to get to know you and to know that there's somebody out there that are doing the same thing. And I will definitely now. Do they have a phone number that they can reach Support Pay, or is it just the website?
I should know the answer to that, but I think we don't have a phone number. I
Okay.
do believe we're in the App Store. So whether
Okay.
you're iOS or whether you are Android, you can download us in the App Store for free or go to
Okay.
supportpay.com. And I'm so sorry. That's
No, no.
never come up for me. So that's my challenge of the day is to find that out.
Leave it to
We need to
bonehead
keep
me.
learning.
Hey, that's what life's all about. Well, that's good though. Either way, we want them to go to supportpay.com, check out the website, go get the help that you need. And once again, it's wonderful that you are giving people that are coming from domestic violence a free premium app so that they can still have the benefit and still stay safe at the same time. So thank you. That is just wonderful for what you guys are doing.
We're happy to have the opportunity to help. And anyone only when they sign up needs to let the help desk know that they have a stay away or a violence protection order, and they get a premium subscription for both parents involved.
Okay. Well, Erica, thank you for joining us for today on the show. And I look forward to, because I think I can have you back on here and talk about the divorce.
Would you please?
I
Yes. I've
will.
had such a good time. I would love to come back.
Ah, well, good, because I love to have you back. You're very easy and pleasant to talk to. So we'll fix that up.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike.
Thanks, Erica. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for today. And I want to thank Erica England for coming on the show to be a part of this show. And I tell you, that information that she provided is excellent, is something that we can definitely use. But if you are looking for resources that can help you, go to the Father Show with MikeThompson.com and click on the resource header. There, you will find a list of different resources like attorneys, counselors, therapists, and fatherhood programs. And I'm hoping to get support pay on our list as well. So, but before you go, don't forget, I'd like for you to subscribe to the show. And that way you can always know when we upload a new show on our YouTube channel. And you can watch any of our shows on our website, YouTube, Facebook, and also you can catch us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, and Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and a lot of different other apps. So you can always find us. You can always catch the show and listen to it while you're driving to work, while you're working out, whatever is convenient for you. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this week. Until next week, you be safe and God bless you all.